Alright everyone, so today I'm going to be showing you guys yet again how to make another plush. This time I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite ones that I've made, Withered Bonnie. So let's just begin the last one just like I did. Let's begin this just like I did with the last one. So I'm going to show you guys the materials you need first. I do recommend you get all the materials that I have. It'll make your Withered Bonnie look the best that he can be. So first and foremost, the most obvious thing, you can probably already figure it out, you're going to need a Bonnie plush. Pretty obvious. Yep. Second thing you're going to need is, of course, your hot glue gun. Always useful, you know, put out glue things on. Always going to need that. And I always recommend having a plate or something underneath it just so that you don't burn your table. Next of all, if this isn't even more obvious, you're going to need lots of glue sticks, especially on this plush, because this plush is 100% no sewing. You're not going to need to sew anything. So if you don't know how to sew or you don't know how to do any of that, it's perfectly fine, because I'm going to show you guys how you can make a pretty decent looking Withered Bonnie plush without doing any sewing. So now let's go into the fabrics that you'll need. First, you're going to need some black. I'd recommend having a big piece of black, about that big. That looks good. Then you're going to need some red. I'd recommend having about that much red. That should be fine. You're going to need some gray. I got some dark gray here. The gray is going to be for the endoskeleton, but I got a different color gray just to show you guys some alternatives that you can do. And then last of all, you're going to need some white. So yeah, guys, that's everything you're going to need. You might also need some blue, but I don't have any extra blue, so we're just going to go without the blue today. So next thing you might want to buy is these wires. These are the wires that I put in the arms of my plushies so that they can move their arms around. If you look, they're very bendy. You can pose them. So you might want to buy some of these, and I'll tell you guys in a second why you should buy these. So there's the company and everything. They're pretty cheap. I buy these in really, really big amounts because they're cheap and they're useful, and you're going to need it. You might not need it for this plush, but for future plushies that I review and show you how to make, you might need it. So let me show you the last few things you're going to need. One more thing you're going to need, a big piece of cardboard, about that big. Literally just cutting the side off of a cardboard box should be enough. And then you're going to need some markers. You're going to need silver. I'd recommend silver. I'd recommend gold, or kind of a brown. And then just a couple blacks, maybe even one black, as long as it has enough ink. So without further ado, I think we should get right into how to make it. Alright, so first thing we're going to want to do with our Bonnie is cut the muzzle off. So as you all know, Withered Bonnie is obviously missing a face, so we're going to start by cutting off his nose, this little light patch, the muzzle. So what I would recommend doing to start is I would recommend cutting a little hole right between his eyes, right above his nose there, and then start cutting along there until you cut the thread that is holding the muzzle to the face. So get to about there. Did we get it? Not yet. Let me cut one more time. There we go. You're gonna start getting stuffing, guys. So let me push it a little bit like that. It takes a second, but you want to make sure you're right at the nose. So let me keep cutting, keep pushing my scissors in to it. Alright guys, so as you can see here, I have finally reached where the seam separates. I made a little hole there, but that should be fine. Just make sure you don't cut too far out in the head. So now you can see the muzzle is starting to separate, and all you need to do is just keep cutting the thread all the way around the nose. You don't want to cut the actual fabric, at least not this part, because if you cut it too much of it off, you will not be able to put his face in, and it's going to look really goofy. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that little part off because that is taking up space. But let me just go ahead and cut out the rest of the muzzle. Alright guys, so as you can see now, the head is completely separated from the muzzle here. The only thing holding it in still is going to be this little strange piece of fabric. All you're going to need to do is literally just cut that off, okay? All you need to do is cut it off. I'd pull out all the stuffing now, so you can see that little piece is still going to be in there. And now we've got ourselves Bonnie the Stupid Bunny. So let's go ahead. I'm going to pull out all the little excess pieces of thread that are still in there now from us completely obliterating his face. Let me push out all of the stuffing. Sorry. Push out all the stuffing. And kind of fold his head inside out for a second there. And then you are going to see the tops of the ears. So if you look at the ears here, you can see that they are connected by these little plastic things. The reason I had the wire before is because if you really wanted, you could cut a hole up into the ear and you could put a wire up in there so that the ear could bend and flop down. But it is not necessary. You guys don't have to do that, and I'm not going to for the sake of this time, at the time of the video. So let's just leave that out. So I'm going to cut off all the little excess pieces now, just to make it look better, especially the ones around the side of the mouth. Like there's going to be little bits like this that just hang off, and you don't need those there. So now you can see he's pretty much empty, but obviously he still has eyes. He still has his withered Bonnie, or pre-withered Bonnie eyes, so we're going to want to go ahead and cut off the rest of his face. So let me look at mine here. As you can see, my withered Bonnie is very flat, but I needed it to be flat so that it could be very far back. Withered Bonnie has a very, very long bottom jaw, and it goes out very far. It's not forward. It's not that much far forward. It's very, very far back. So you're going to have to sacrifice it being flat if you want it to actually look accurate. So what I did, and I'll show you guys now, is if you look, the top of the head is just to where the ears are. So we're gonna cut all the way back to about this line here, about this line, and we're gonna do that on both sides. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna cut. Let me cut the jaw. This might be a little tricky, guys. Might need some polishing up. It might not work the first few times, so make sure that you watch closely. So I'm going to cut up the line, cut all the way up, and then you want to just brush right over the top of his eyes, just right over the top for now. We'll go back. It's always good to cut it too small because you can always cut it bigger, but you cannot cut it, if you cut it too big, you cannot cut it smaller. So you always want to go at little bits at a time. So let me look here. Now we just need to go down from here. This is a little tricky because there is no stuffing inside him, so nothing is holding this up. So you're going to want to hold it up with your hands when you cut his face open. Just like that. Just like that. There we go. So it may look a little messy now, and it may look a little strange, but this is what we want it to look like. So there we go. So remember I said that it goes back to all the way to about his ears. So all we're going to want to do for that is we just want to cut off a little bit of the front. Just a little bit off there. And then it looks pretty good, I'd say. So obviously it doesn't look good right now, but once we start adding the rest in, it should look golden. So I'd say the first thing that we should start with is definitely the part on the inside of the head that is going to be hard, and that's where this comes in. So I'd recommend you get your cardboard here, cut a piece about that big. You want to fold it about that much. Try to fold it down the middle if you can. Mine's a little wonky. Let me try to line up the ends and then fold it down. That looks pretty good. So you want to fold it like that. You want to get your withered Bonnie, and you just want to put this in. And you just want to see how big it should be. You want to look at the back of his head, stretch out the back so that you can see about how big it should be. And then I want you guys to cut just how much. So you fold it. I'm going to cut down here. I'm going to cut down this. Alright, and then I'm going to cut curves into it. Just like that. So, curves on each side. Now, this might be a little bit too small, and I might end up having to do it again, and that's perfectly fine, guys. I didn't do mine on the first try. So now, you just want to see if it lines up. It looks a little tall. But it looks about the right width. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this off now. Cut off one piece. And then I'm going to shorten the bottom a little bit. And then I'm going to try it on the top jaw. Or I guess on the face. It looks pretty good. And then I'm going to line it up with the bottom. Maybe it works better for the bottom. Which I think it might actually be better for the bottom. So that means that first thing we got to do is we got to cover this in black felt. So this is how I do it. So let's move the camera down here, and I'll show you guys. So get your black felt. I told you you need about this much. Make sure if it's double, like one side is usually kind of soft, while the other side is way more fluffy. Make sure you glue it onto the fluffy side, because the fluffy side is going to not look good on a withered bunny. So all you need to do is get this, put some glue all the way around the edge, just like that, and maybe just a little bit in the middle, and then just slap it down right on there. All right, looks pretty good so far. I might need to grab some more felt for this actually, but so let that sit for a second. Let me grab a hot glue stick. And then this is what we need to do next. So you want to take your Withered Bonnie's little cardboard piece here. You want to put glue all the way around the edge on the side of the fabric. So just like that. Hold on, glue stick's being kind of annoying. All right, and then you just want to put some in the middle, just like that. So I'd recommend doing it around the edge too, just like that. And then all you need to do, this is very simple. Just need to grab the side, fold it flat over on its face, and just push the sides in. So then the two pieces will glue together around the edge, and you won't see any cardboard sticking out. So just wait for that. So now we just need to wait for that to dry. While we wait for that to dry, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how you can do just the minor details on his body. So let's do the buttons first. I just need to grab scissors here. Cut a tiny piece of our black here, and then fold it in half, and then all you need to do, just cut, obviously, just 2 little circles out. This part should not be hard. This part should be very easy. If you have any trouble with this part, I don't know what you're doing. So there we go. We got 2 little pieces of black. All you need to do is just put a little dab of glue on his stomach. Slip that boy on there. Looks nice, like that. And then you're going to want to... This one looks a little bit shaggy, so let me cut off the bits that look weird. I think I got it all. It looks relatively round now, I'd say. So let me get some glue on there. And then put that boy on the stomach. That is a little bit of a strange button. It's kind of falling apart. But that's just because it's a super fluffy fabric. So you can solve that problem. Just want to cut little pieces off. Cut off pieces of the fluff that you don't like there. And get rid of that. And you got yourself some pretty good buttons. So next thing I think is pretty easy and probably self-explanatory. You just need to draw some withering onto him. Just like this. Make sure you shade it nicely so you can't see any purple underneath. You want it to be pretty dark. Add little slits like this, just so it looks like it's ripped and torn. You might want to just add, Funko doesn't usually do that much detail on their plushies, so just add little bits of detail. You don't need to do very much. I put maybe 1 on top of the arm, 1 on the back. Let's fold his floppy head up, 1 on the back like that. Looks pretty good. And I'd say there you go. You got a withered body. We'll move on to this arm after I get done with the face. So I think now our face should be pretty dry. It takes a little bit, but I can work with it while it's still kind of wet. So you want to cut it out right at the edge so that you guys will see what happens. I'm going to cut it right at the edge of where you glued it. And you'll see, you can't really see any of the cardboard because I cut and I glued the two pieces together over it, so that it's just sealing the cardboard in a little pocket of fabric. So there we go. Looks pretty nice. Now let's compare it. Looks pretty much about the same size as my old one. Now let's put it on the face here. Looks pretty good, I'd say. Might want to put that on the bottom jaw. Let me look at how that looks. You always want to compare because one might look better for one part of the head. I think this is going to be the top jaw because it's a little too big. So let's look here. Looks pretty good. We might even have space to stuff it in the back. So let me just grab some stuffing. We actually came out with enough space this time, guys, which is pretty good. I guess second time's a charm. So let me just stick some stuffing back there. You want to put it in there just like that, and then you'd see it's a little bit lumpy in the back, so it doesn't look completely flat like mine does. So all you need to do to glue it, I would recommend starting with just putting some around the edge here. Always make sure your parents help because it's easy to burn yourself. Put some on the top of the ears, little ear joints, and then just keep loading some in. I know it looks like a lot, but you want to make sure this stays in put and it doesn't come apart. You want it to seem like a real plush. So there we go. I think that's really good. So let's just stick him in. You want to make sure the sides wrap around nicely. Make sure it's nice and glued. Still sticks out a little bit in the back. Even though it is glued, it will be a little flat, but I think that looks good. So let's just do that. And then one more thing I would recommend doing is going ahead and just putting a little bit of glue around the edge, just so that there's no openings. And then you want to push the sides just a little bit, just so that they get glued. And we're going to wait for him to dry. I will be back. Alright guys, so now we should do the bottom jaw. So we're going to go ahead, grab this piece that we cut earlier. We're going to look at how it looks on our Withered bunny. And if you're wondering what's with the little pieces of glue there, we will deal with those in a second. They don't hurt anything. So let's get our piece. Looks a little bit too long. Morty. Cut that. Looks pretty good. Might be a little too short now. Nah, I think that's good actually. That looks like a good length. And if you're wondering why it looks so gross, we're just waiting for it to dry so we can fix it up, make it look nice and smooth. So let's go ahead. Let's get our fabric here. Make sure we have the fluffy side. Extra support. And then you want to go ahead. 3, 2, 1. Flip that boy over right on its head. And there we go. Push it down all the way around the edges. And maybe even get your scissors and kind of line it just so that it glues nicely together. There we go. So you should be able to see it through the fabric there. We'll just leave that to dry, and then we're going to grab our friend over here. You see he's got these little strands of glue. These aren't fully dried yet, but obviously they're not going to be able to come off now. So I have a solution for those. If you want to fix that, you can always just cut another circle, or like a piece of black, and stick that on there. But it does not matter because we're going to be putting the gray face on there anyway, which is what I think we should do in a second here. Another thing I want to point out, I was thinking of this earlier. If you guys want to figure out different ways to put withering on him, you can always just cut withering out of fabric. So if we just got a little piece of withering here and just kind of cut a little scraggly piece like that, I mean, that looks like a pretty nice piece of withering. If you guys just wanted to, like, you know, just glue it onto him, glue it onto his back, I think it serves pretty good as a little piece of withering. Although I do feel like Sharpie is way better. So if you guys have Sharpie, definitely use it. But if you don't have Sharpie for whatever reason, I think that's a pretty good solution. So now we're going to want to make sure that there's no stuffing sticking out because we're just about ready to glue in the new piece. So you just want to make sure there's no stuffing in there. Make sure there's nothing pointing out, because that will look weird if he has stuffing sticking out between his mouth. So let's grab our piece over here. It may not be done drying, but it's still stuck together. So let's cut it right at the edge there. All right, so just stick that in his mouth. Then you want to pull the mouth. It looks like it may be a little bit long, but you can always stick it. This is what I do. I stick it underneath the top part of the head, and then you kind of just push it under so that it kind of fits under there. And then you want to pull this. If it still doesn't reach all the way around, which it should be able to, it looks like it's fitting for me. But if it still doesn't, you can go ahead, take it out, and then you can just cut a little bit off. And I think I'm gonna cut about that much because it's still not fitting for me. It's better to have it too big than too small, guys. Just remember that. Better too big than too small. So there we go. That looks pretty fit so far. We're just gonna want to go ahead and put some glue on the bottom there. Let me just put one line of glue. Just about like that. Looks good. Let me push that up. There we go. Always make sure that there's little bits hanging over the top so that you can glue those onto the side, as so. But those are not glued on yet, so let's go ahead. Let's push that farther under. And then let's put some glue around the corner. So you want to put a very little amount because there's not much fabric on here. There you go. So just kind of push it onto the side. Don't fold it over. I wouldn't recommend folding it over. I just recommend gluing it on to the side like that. And then once it's dry, you can go ahead and cut off all that excess. And then you've got yourself a pretty good base head. So let's put a piece of glue right in the middle of the mouth there, because if you have those two connected like that, it won't bend backwards or it won't bend forward. It'll be pretty sturdy like that. So you want to make sure those are glued together at a 90-degree angle. Otherwise, it's going to look very weird. So this Withered Bonnie, I'm realizing right now, kind of has a tall head and he kind of has a short jaw, but I think he'll turn out pretty nice in the end. So he looks pretty good so far. Let's just wait for him to dry. I'll get back to you guys when that has happened. Alright, so he's gluing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys how we do the rest of the face. So first we're going to start with the endoskeleton in the back of the head. You just need to get your gray here. You need to cut a piece, I'd say about that big. That should be more than enough. Cut it all the way down. Looks pretty good. As you see, one side is fluffier than the other, so I'm going to use the less fluffy side. Fold it in half. Cut about here. And then cut up. Let's put that out. Very large, as you can see. So let's make it a little smaller. Cut about there. Fold it out. Still tiny bit big. This time I'm not going to fold it in half. I'm just going to cut it down one side so that we do not cut it too much. That should be where we want to get. So let me cut it a little bit on the top because it seems a little too small, or too tall, sorry. A little bit too tall still, guys. You want to make sure you get this just the right size, otherwise his head will be a little too small or too big. So there you go. Alright, so now I'm going to cut one more time down the side here, but this time when I go back down, I'm going to cut off a little bit like that. So you cut it just to the side, you cut in, down, and then try to smooth it out, and it'll look like that. I'd recommend rounding off the top parts here. That's what I did, like that. And then there you've got the inside of the head. So let me go ahead, get some glue. This does not need too much glue. You could just put it around the edge. Make sure it does not drip on your table. or your hand for that matter. So I'm shaking because I don't want to drop glue. So there we go. As you can see, he's got his endo head now. So that was pretty simple. Now we need to do the eyes. This is how I'd recommend doing the eyes. Oh, he fell. Oh, and he fell again. Let's just leave him. This is how I'd recommend doing the eyes. Like I did before, get a big enough piece, fold it in half, once again, and then cut 2 pretty big circles out of the black. So there, here are his eyes. Let me put little pieces of glue down for them. Got 1 here. That should be good for 1. There we go. And then 2. Big enough puddle, just so that it glues nicely. Make sure you have the flat side out of the fabric. Make sure they're not too close together either. There you go. So you've got 2 nice black eyes. Now you want to get is the red. You won't need a big piece for this. Maybe like that much for the red. Just fold it in half. Cut 2 little red circles out. Let me do that. Cute. So let's make him look adorable. So put 1 eye in. Looks good. I would always recommend putting the glue on the back of the eye rather than putting it on what you're going to glue it on. But I'm only doing this today because I can't really use both my hands at this angle with a camera in front of me, so I kind of just have to do it like this. So there we go. There are his eyes. If you want to add little red pupils like I did, you can. They're not very hard to do. All you need to do is cut out 2 little white circles, and then you put them in the corners of the eyes. I'm not going to do it for this one because I'm going to show you guys you can still make it without the pupils or the little white glistening dots, but you can add those. So I'm going to show you guys how you make the endoskeleton mouth now. As you see, my Withered Bonnie has a little endoskeleton mouth sticking up there. So you want to get your gray fabric. Let me grab a piece. You want to have a big rectangle of it. So I'd recommend cutting about that much out. And then I'm going to cut off this weird edge. Oh, he fell over again. Strange edge. And then I'm going to cut it again until we have about that. So let me put the camera down so you guys can see what I do. So we're going to just get the fluffy side out, and then we're just going to slather this in glue. Just one side of it. Only one side, guys. Let me get a glue stick. All you need is one side of it with lots of glue. Just lots of glue. Then you're going to want to fill that space. Fill it with glue. Put that in there. And then fold it over right at the edge so that you make a double layered piece of fabric. And then just kind of tap it down. If you push it too hard, then glue is going to come out the sides and leak onto your table. So I just recommend pushing it just until it's together. And then you want to wait for that to dry. It might take a couple minutes for it to dry because it has lots of glue in it. So we're going to leave that be, and we're going to start doing the rest of him. So obviously he has his face, he has his eyes, but he looks a little plain. He does need the actual teeth as well. So here's what I would do for the actual teeth. Fun fact, it's actually the exact same thing that we did for the endo teeth. You get a big piece like this. You're going to want to, let me put the camera up at a good angle. You're going to want to put it like that. You're going to want to make a big, long rectangle of just complete glue. So about that much. And you guys probably wondering, you probably think it's a waste of glue, but trust me, this is the best tactic for making non-floppy teeth, because then you have a very hard yet fluffy piece of fabric. It's almost like cardboard. It's so hard. So if you're wondering, obviously I did use cardboard with my Withered Bonnie's teeth, but this is a better strategy. This is what I do with other plushies now. So you want to fold it over, let's flip it around, and then you want to pat it down. We're going to wait for that to dry, and we're just going to get back to you guys when those are done drying. Alright guys, I think this piece is dry enough to start cutting it, so let's just go ahead. I want to start cutting that piece out. As you can see, It's just a little piece of fabric glued together. I want to cut at the very edge. I made a little bit of too small of a piece, so I'm going to try my best to show you guys how to do it, even though this piece is kind of small. So let's just go ahead. We'll cut it straight down the middle, first of all. Then you want to see here that this is going to be the mouth. It's going to look kind of like that. So we should start cutting some teeth into it. So start just cutting out little bits like that. You do one at each end. As you can see, that's working pretty well. Alright, sorry if you guys can't see. I'm not looking through the camera, so I'm looking at my hands, so that's what it's going to look like. Cut little pieces like that. It's kind of tricky to do. It's a little wonky looking. It's not as good as mine, but you guys might do a better job on yours. So there you go. You just cut it down, and then you've got yourself a little endoskeleton mouth. Pretty simple. So now let's get our Boone. As you can see, then he's going to have a little endo mouth like that. So let me just get a line of glue across the bottom of it. This might be a little tricky, so don't put too much because it will drip and it will burn you to death. Maybe not to death, but it will burn you. So let's put that in there. Alright, so just let that glue. And then he's got an endo mouth. You're not really going to see the endo mouth through the real teeth, but you know what? It serves a justice for what he has in the game. So now let's do the real teeth. Let's find about where the piece ends. It's about here. Okay, let's find about where it ends on this side. It's about there. So just cut down. And I made this strip very long because sometimes you don't cut the teeth the right size, and you just want to make sure that you do. So there we go. Skadoosh. So let me get one little piece to start cutting a tooth out. Make sure we have a good size. That looks pretty good. Like that. Might cut a little bit off the bottom. And then you're going to see that the tooth will look like that. We'll have about 3 on each side. So let's just start cutting the right size teeth for this. So about that size. And I'm just going to keep going down the line. We got 3 now. We got 4. We got 5. And then we got 6. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those all into the right shape, and then I'll get back to you guys. Alright guys, so I've got 6 teeth here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to find the biggest ones, because you always want to have the 2 biggest ones be the front teeth, otherwise it'll look weird if they're in the back. So I think this one and this one should be the front ones. So let's go ahead and let's put little splotches of glue like that. You want to get the tooth, stick it right on top there, stick another one. You might even want to put a little gap between them because he does have a little gap between the front teeth. Not a very big one though, so actually I'm going to push those back because it looks kind of weird now that I think about it. So he looks like a hillbilly right now. He needs a little bit more teeth, so obviously people need teeth, don't they? So let's add a tooth there. I'm going to cut this tooth a little bit, make it a little bit thinner just so that it fits better. That looks good, like that. And then I'm going to fold that. That little piece looks weird. Let me put the glue here. So, alright, almost done. That looks a little too wide for a tooth, so let me cut that down. That looks good so far. One more tooth I need to cut down a lot. Like that. We gotta stick it in the corner. Such as that. And I think that looks pretty good for the head. So obviously it looks way different than the one I made, but it's always going to look different, guys. They're always going to be a little bit different looking because it's just a little bit hard to make this the perfect shape. I'm pretty happy with my original one, but I think this one is a pretty good doppelganger if I do say so myself. The only problem is that his head could be a little wider, but other than that, he looks great. So let's do the last part, or the last few parts. Sorry guys. The arm. The arm, obviously, Withered Bonnie does not have this arm. So, honestly, all you need to do is just snip. Just snip that arm off. You might want to snip, I think, actually, no, it's a good size. So, then you need to get some black. You need to cut a little piece like this. You want to try to get a nice square, maybe even circle if you can. I think that's a pretty good shape there. So that should be big enough. All you need to do, I'd push the stuffing into his arm a little more. Then you need to stick this inside of there. And then just push that in until it covers the edges of the armhole. Like that. So then there's no stuffing showing. You spread it out on the inside just so that it does not poke any holes when you glue it. Honestly, that looks pretty good though. You might want to cut a little more of this arm flap off. I'm going to leave it off. I'm going to leave it for now because it can just be glued down. So all you need to do is get it like that. Put some glue around the edge. Put some glue in the middle. And then just push the arm in till it glues down. Then you've got yourself a little armhole there. It's a little different than how I did mine. I actually sewed mine, the little glue or piece on here. I didn't actually stick it in. I sewed it, but I'm only doing it like this because I wanted to promise you guys that you would not have to sew one bit for this plush. If you know how to sew and you're good at it, then go ahead, by all means. Oh, I just burned myself. Do it this way, but I'm going to continue without sewing in this tutorial. So now you've got an armhole. He's obviously missing an arm there. All you need to do, this is pretty simple, just cut a little thin strip, about that long, and then you want to get a little thin strip of gray. Let me cut it from this piece, about like that. And then put one little dab of glue, middle, and then stick the middle of this one onto that dab of glue, such as that. And then you've got yourself a little bundle of wires. So all you need to do is put some glue, even though he's already got some there, and then you need to stick that right in the armhole. Then you've got the wires sticking out for the arms, or for the arm, I guess. So yeah, guys, really simple, I think. You'll get the hang of it, guys. One more thing you can do. It's not going to be easy for me to do because I'm running out of ink, but you can color in this hand gray. So, you know, just color it with your gray marker. Or you can color this foot too because he does have a gray foot. But I don't need to show you guys how to do that. Plus my marker is running out of ink, so I can't. Other than that, though, we got ourselves a pretty good Withered Bonnie here. A little bit different looking than the original one I made. I want to show you guys another idea I had a few minutes ago for the ears. So instead of doing the ears how I did before, before you put the face in, you put the wire in, what you can actually do is you can snip a tiny little hole at the back of his ear here until there's a big enough hole you can stick your scissors in it. So let me try to get that hole open. You just have to keep snipping, and then now I believe you should be able to stick your scissors all the way up inside his ear, just like that. Cut the hole a little bigger. Should work now. So now you can see my scissors is all the way up inside the ear. Now you just want to grab your pack of wires. All you're going to need is one. Let me do that. All you're going to need is one wire, just like this. I'd recommend folding it in half because the more the better. And then try to make sure this is as skinny as you can get it. So really bend it. And then just try to stick it up into that same spot that your scissors were in. Just like that. Let me get it on. Alright, might take a second. There's a lot of like weird stuff inside these ears, so it kind of gets caught on it. If you just slowly push it all the way up inside the ear, and then you're going to have a little bit sticking out, you can just cut that off, just like that. And then, once that's up in there, you can just have his ear permanently bent down, like that. Just like Withered Bonnie, you can kind of style it around however you want to do it, but then it'll stay bent and it won't move around. If you want to seal up the hole again, just put a little bit of glue on there. Just wait for that to dry over it, because then they will not be able to come out of the ear, and those will stay in there permanently. So yeah, guys, really there's nothing else for me to say. That's how you make Withered Bonnie. Let me know in the comments if there's any more you want me to make. Ours is a little lopsided, but I'm pretty happy with him. I think he's a good duplicate, and I might sell him or something one day. So, yeah, guys, let me know if you guys make one. Show me in the comments what it looks like if you make one. I'm always happy to see what you guys make. And without further ado, I guess I'll just see you guys in the next video. Also, what should I make next, guys? I want to do more tutorials.